Hello and welcome to Business Spotlight with me, Yvonne Webb. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Stephen Moore, who's the CEO and founder of Moore Legal Technology. Thanks for joining us today, Stephen.
Pleasure. Nice to meet you.
So, Stephen, I guess what we're interested in is a bit about your business journey to date. You're in quite a niche sector at the moment with what you're doing. So tell me the background. That's what led you to get there.
The background was I actually initially trained as a lawyer. And then I went away traveling for a number of years, and then I came back and started doing my diploma, which is the professional qualification prior to doing your traineeship. And at that point, I started to have quite a lot of doubts as to whether or not being a lawyer was the right thing for me. I then started a traineeship, and sadly, it was the last century in 1999. And at that point, you look too young to remember that, but at that point, the internet was not really a commercial tool. It was something that existed on a computer in the corner of the library. And when I first started, my was pointed at this computer and told, "Oh, that's the internet." As that began to grow and develop, I developed more of an interest in it, primarily because, one, I thought it was going to give us flexibility. I'd understood about email. I felt constrained by standard working practices at that time of the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It wasn't really as a result of not wanting to work hard. It was more, I was a keen windsurfer, and I now kite surf and do other activities that you can't do when it's dark.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand why I had to do that. Why I had to work 9 to 5 every day, when I could perhaps get up earlier and do the work in the morning, go out in the water for a while, and then do the work later on again. So the internet was something that I saw facilitating that, and I thought, I'm getting involved in this. I don't exactly know what it is, but I'm going to get involved in it. I then set up my first business as a trainee, which allowed solicitors and insurers to negotiate claims over the internet. That was too advanced for its time, but a number of law firms around Scotland invested in it, and it was really very well executed. When that didn't work out, I started working with lawyers as a bridge between their partners and their IT team. And then I did a degree in IT, which was part-time. My first son had been born. And as that progressed, I started getting involved in some other initiatives, which were exciting and interesting, and effectively used technology and were allowing me to fulfill my hobbies while also progressing with my understanding of the sort of online world. And then round about 2008 or 2009, an old friend from uni spoke to me about his law firm's website, and he asked if I'd help them do search engine optimization and help them with their website marketing generally. I said to him, look, that wasn't something that I was that interested in doing. I did it for myself, but I didn't really do it for others.
Yeah.
And he then said to me, "Oh, well, I'm paying this other agency £650 a month to do it." And I thought, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and then we started to redevelop his site, rewrote all the content, did all the search engine optimization on it, switched it over, put it live, and very quickly it started generating inquiries. And at that point, I had a bit of a eureka moment, and I was thinking, that's what he wants, and who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
The inquiries started flooding in, and I started speaking to some other lawyers in my network, saying to them, look, I think I can generate you business online. And they'd be a bit incredulous. Then I would have a discussion with them where I would say, so if you were to get 10 inquiries, or so I'd say initially, what was your average fee value? And they might say £500 for a specific work type.
Yeah.
Then I would say, so if I was to generate you 10 inquiries, how many do you think they would convert? And they would say, well, probably about 3.
Yeah.
I would say, so if I get you 10 inquiries, you convert 3, so that would generate you £1,500 worth in fees, but you're paying me $650.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah. And I said, well, I think I can actually generate you 50.
Wow.
And I'd have a discussion with them, and I'd effectively guarantee them that within 6 months, if I wasn't generating them 50 inquiries a month, I'd do it for free. It was only a number of years later where somebody said to me, well, if you've not done it in 6 months, you're probably not going to be able to do it, are you? So that guarantee is not really worth a lot. But we started picking up customer after customer. And that business grew.
Was this just organically, Stephen?
Yeah, it was either through, it was primarily through my network. And maybe as sites that I was working on started to gain prominence in search.
Right, okay, people noticed.
Others got in touch. And I actually remember the 5th customer that I took on for that business doing this type of activity was Austin Lafferty. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Austin Lafferty.
I'm aware of the name, but I've never
He was
used
a
him or known him.
he was like a TV solicitor.
Yeah.
But his domain strength, the quality, the website history, etc., meant that it was going to rank very quickly, but the content and design was a mess. And once we got that site live and generating really, significant amounts of inquiries daily, I thought that this is actually a new business for me, or a niche that we should really, really focus on for 2 reasons. One, it was something that I was passionate about.
Yeah.
But 2, it was based on value. We were pricing based on value, not on time.
Yeah.
And that was a very significant change from what had been consultancy type work, where you get paid by the hour, which is always going to be restricting to a certain extent.
Yeah.
We also, the notion of generating business online to solicitors at that time was quite difficult. You'd have some solicitors who didn't actually believe that this internet was actually, going to be something. So myself and customer number 1, Ali, we then started registering our own domains all around the UK and effectively built up a portfolio of lead generating websites focused on specific legal disciplines all over the UK. And that developed significantly into a very good fun business. We had a great laugh doing it. We met a lot of good people, and we sold that business in 2017.
So it sounds like, first of all, the gap year, the year you went traveling, seems to be a pivotal year, because that then feels like it moved you away from law. Did you do a lot of your hobbies on that year, your kite surfing and your windsurfing?
I did a bit of them. I didn't really have the money to be able to afford to do them at that time, but I did really enjoy being outdoors a lot. And I had done a bit of windsurfing when I was younger, and it was just something that I picked up and got back into, and it became a real passion. And I think also when I was in the diploma year, I was conscious that I wasn't really making friends. And I'm actually I'm friendly and I make friends quite easily, but I just wasn't making friends. And I sort of came to the conclusion that what I was looking to achieve in my career was quite different to them.
Yeah.
And that, I suppose one other thing is that my dad was a lawyer, a very, very successful one and a very good one. And he was always very passionate about it. And so I understood quite early on, if I'm not that passionate about it, it's unlikely I'm going to be very good at it.
Yeah.
So I might as well find something that I actually am good at, I enjoy doing, but it's going to bring me the balance in life that I'm keen to achieve.
And that's something I picked up really early on. And, it feels like you're ahead of the curve. There's a lot of chat now, isn't there, about balance and making sure you have time for yourself and doing what you like. But that's one of the first things you came up with when we were talking there about getting that first and having a lifestyle that allows you to do the stuff that you want. Like, I don't think that would be a really well-known concept at the time. It feels a bit groundbreaking. Did it feel that way to you?
It felt a bit as if people were like, are you mad? How do you think you can achieve that? So in some regards, yeah, it probably was. It was probably a sort of Scottish early iteration of Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week.
Yeah.
And that I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand the constraints around it when technology allowed you to work at different times. It was very rarely that you were dealing with something that was hugely time sensitive.
Yeah.
Certainly within a few hours. And it wasn't that I wanted to work less. I just wanted to work differently. And I think over the years, now as I'm older, and my eldest son, who when I did my IT degree was just a baby is now 19.
Mm.
It's allowed me to develop relationships with my children and my family that I'm not sure I would have been able to develop had I been involved in work in that sort of nuclear sense of dad leaves every morning and comes back at night.
I guess there's a lot of jealous people out there right now wishing that they'd had that, because, you know, particularly in the law profession, there are a lot of long hours and heavy days that go in. It's quite intense. Well, my experience of it's been like that, having worked with some law firms. Is that fair? Is that typical?
Well, I mean, I think the thing, yeah, I'd say it is typical. I'd say the rewards are quite high. It depends on the type of practice that you're in. You know, the billable hour is a concept which is constraining, particularly if you know, lawyers have to achieve a certain rate of utilization in terms of how many hours they bill each day.
Yeah.
You know, so that's hard, you know, and there's a lot of stories around about, you know, almost graduate pay levels of over £100,000 in law firms in London. Now, the only reason that works is because these same law firms run these or work these young solicitors to the bone.
Yeah.
The thing, one of the main things that I've taken away from the sort of Tim Ferriss's approach, which I read after I'd done it, but it really resonated with me, is that you can always make more money, but you can't make more time.
Yeah, it's a good one to remember. Is a Stephen Moore book version coming out anytime?
Well, I'm actually starting. I've been writing a book about online business generation for solicitors, and we've actually written quite a lot of that. It's a bit unfortunate in terms of timing as a result of the relatively recent understanding around AI and what it can do from a marketing point of view. But you know, there's definitely quite a lot to be written around that, because you know, our whole mission has been around helping law firms become more successful, helping lawyers be able to see how they can make their firms and themselves more successful, how maybe they can have the lifestyle that they want, and how they can use the internet and the opportunities it presents. And I think for many law firms, there's definitely a story there or content there that would help them move on that journey.
And do you think that how you teach the law firms is specific to law? Is it quite niche, or do you think there is a crux of what you do that's transferable to other sectors?
Yeah, it's absolutely transferable to other sectors. I think we have thought, and we do some work with other businesses, but only when they get introduced to us.
Okay.
And some of those have worked out extremely well for our customers. And the aim is always to generate at least 10 times return on investment.
Yeah.
But from a sort of business future point of view, operating on a niche, and a niche is attractive. You know, I'm not in any rush to sell my business or have it acquired or anything. However, I think it's good practice to be continually working on it with that in mind, and use those types of metrics to dictate the activities that you're going to carry out and how you're actually going to measure your performance. And I listen quite often to, there's a few, the 7-Figure Agency podcast, or the Creative Agency Account Manager podcast, and a few others, where they do talk about how important it is being in a niche. And we understand this market.
Yeah.
And lawyers can be quite, sorry, I talked over you there.
No. It's a market that you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lawyers can be quite, initially, I wouldn't say difficult to deal with, but being able to talk the language and understand the different service areas and understand what's important and what's going to work and what's not is good. And we've got a good head start on that and lots of years of experience of it.
And so you've recently made the move, as I understand, from MD to CEO. Talk us through why you made that move and what the differences have been.
It's been absolutely brilliant, actually. I think I started off the business and started to recruit, and appointed myself as managing director, having no idea what a managing director actually does.
Yeah.
You know, I'd been in, my only employment was for a few months in a law firm. I'd never really worked anywhere, so I didn't really actually have any experience. And I reflected on this recently, is that despite having run an agency for about 12 or 13 years, I'd never been in one. And then I was having a chat with somebody who I know who'd had a really good business and it hadn't quite worked out, and he was looking at getting into some digital stuff, and he had been a managing director of a number of agencies.
Okay.
And as I was chatting to him, I was thinking, you could be perfect for me. And I actually brought him in initially as a head of marketing, but quite quickly it became clear that his skills went well beyond that, and he was identifying things in terms of our structure, in terms of our roles and responsibilities, in terms of personal development plans, etc., that I was just completely unaware of.
Yeah.
I'm not that good at nurturing people. You know, I get on with people, but I'm not that good at that type of structure. And when Gav started to manage that, I was like, that's what a managing director does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's been a big relief.
A relief. Good. And do you find yourself still doing a lot of the day-to-day, or are you really much more hands-off now?
I haven't done much of the day-to-day for quite a long time, you know, and I found that to be a very liberating, I suppose, position, in that I've tried to take on good people who enjoy their job. They wouldn't like to do my job. You know, they don't want to take the risk of being a founder or an owner. They don't want responsibility of paying for people and pensions and all of those types of things. But they like autonomy, and they like to be trusted and like to be appreciated. And, you know, I've always tried to do it on the basis of a win-win. If it's, you know, if you're working for me, I'll work for you, and hopefully we end up earning money and having quite a good time while we're doing it.
Nice approach. Nice approach. So what challenges do you see in your industry moving forward in the next 3-5 years? What uphill struggles do you think might be in store?
I definitely think artificial intelligence. I'm not necessarily sure whether that's going to be a struggle or whether that's going to be a major boon for marketing. I think that is going to evolve really, really quickly. And I think its introduction, I mean, we're already using a number of applications to make things better for our clients and quicker and more efficient for us. The legal sector as a whole is, I think, slightly wary around artificial intelligence and whether it might end up replacing some of their jobs.